It is time to talk about some documentaries, TV, and some miscellaneous titles that I picked up recently and watched recently. This will be uploaded along with another one in which I'm talking about a lot of nice Blu-ray editions, so if you haven't seen that, then that's gonna be up at the same time as this video. Oh, by the way, cheers, it's pretty hot. So let us start with some miscellaneous. Let's see, I got two DVDs here that I don't know if I unboxed. I think I might have unboxed these off camera. Still Life, a movie with Eddie Marsan, in which he plays, it's a pretty bleak film, or, well, his life is very bleak, very grey, and so the film kind of takes on that tone as well. He plays a funeral, not a funeral director, but I don't know what his title is exactly. It says here, John May is a very special man. He basically he arranges funerals for people who have no relatives, so he attends the funerals himself, and you know, he's the only attendee. And then he sort of questioned after a while, like, is it really necessary to have these funerals when no relatives are around? But that's sort of what he does. And then he, after a while, he's kind of finds, tries to track down this one relative. I think it's been a while since I saw this, but this one relative of a deceased person, that becomes his mission in a way. And it's kind of slow in some parts. I mean, that's sort of what the film is, but the ending is really worth sticking around to. I mean, not that the movie is bad in any way. It is really good all the way through, but the ending just moved me so much. The ending was wonderful, and just a perfect one of those perfect endings when everything comes together and everything makes sense. So this is one that I'd recommend. The other one, Venus, Peter O'Toole, Vanessa Redgrave, although she's only in like 1 or 2 scenes, and Jodie Whittaker. Peter O'Toole is terrific in this. Jodie Whittaker is terrific. They have a very special relationship with each other, and it's about them, basically. Really good film. I really did like this a lot. Another great drama, as well as some comedy in this. And Jodie Whittaker, she's the new Doctor Who, apparently. First female Doctor Who, and I didn't know who she was, but I thought she was great in this, so I looked her up, and then I found this movie with her, Adult Life Skills. She plays a 30-year-old who sort of hasn't quite grown up yet, I suppose. And I don't know, it's kind of like a romantic drama comedy, kind of quirky film. It was decent. I didn't love it, but I bought it for her, and she was good in this as well. I think isn't she in that show Broadchurch, I want to say. I might check that out. Let's see here. I bought The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel 2-pack, both movies. I've seen the first one before, and so I rewatched that, and then I saw the second one for the first time. And they are really fun, delightful, charming films. And I actually bought this because I had previously bought this, and I have series 2 as well, but my cousin is borrowing it. She just borrowed this. And then when I told her there was a second series, she was over the moon about that, and so now she has the second one. But I do have that as well. This is basically a real-life version of this. This is about, you know, seniors going to India, British seniors going to India to retire, basically, or sort of. And this is about that too. It's about some celebrities, or I suppose B-celebrities to some extent. I don't really know who they are, except for Miriam Margolyes, and I think he played a doctor. Speaking of Doctor Who, I think he was one doctor at one point. The rest of them I don't know, but, you know, minor celebrities, I suppose. You probably recognize more of them than I do if you're from the UK. But, so it's the same premise. It's just the same premise as this, basically, but it's a reality documentary show. And it was fun. I did like that. And since I like travel stuff, I especially enjoyed that. And series 2 was just as enjoyable. And again, since I like travel documentaries, I've been aware of Joanna Lumley's documentaries for a while, and this is one that I found cheap, so this was the first one that I bought, which I think was the first one she made too. In the land of the Northern Lights, she goes up to Norway, to the north, to see the Aurora Borealis, I think it's called. You can see it here in the background. These dancing, flickering lights in the sky, which I've never seen those, even though I live in the north, but they don't show themselves where I live. But yeah, not that I live in Norway. Anyway, this was decent. I'd like to check out more of them. There's one that I've really been wanting, where she goes on the Trans-Siberian Railroad or whatever, which sounds really fun. This one was only an hour long, but the other ones that she's made are like a couple episodes long. So, and then I got this Hold the Sunset, which is the first sitcom with John Cleese since Fawlty Towers, I think. And I'm not gonna go too much into this, although I could. But it was definitely a bit of a disappointment, unfortunately, and this has not been getting good reviews. But when I first heard about this, I was super excited to see another sitcom with John Cleese, because I'm a massive fan. And then, you know, then it comes out and you hear negative reviews, and it just kind of sucks when that happens, because you've been looking forward to it for so long, and now you realize that, okay, so apparently it's not that good. And I'd rather realize that myself watching the thing, rather than already knowing that going into it, you know. Anyway, I will say though, out of these 6 episodes, the last 3 were more enjoyable. They introduced this character who I liked, and then after that it became more enjoyable to me. Anyway, so I've been trying to beef up my live metal DVD collection. Lamb of God, they're not a band that I necessarily like that much. They've got some good songs and some good albums, but Walk With Me in Hell, I guess that's one of their most famous songs. I saw them live once. The singer, I just gotta tell this, maybe I have already, but this was many years ago. It was at Metal Town in Gothenburg, and I forget what his name is, but the vocalist, he must have been jet lagged, and I don't know what he was, but he walked out on stage, and he said, if I can remember, he said like, hello Copenhagen, and then he realized, except that we're in Stockholm, and then another silence, and then Gothenburg. So he got the city wrong twice. Copenhagen, no. Stockholm, oh no. Gothenburg, that's it. So he was all over the place. Anyway, that was fun. Alright, but they're a good band if you like this kind of music, which I don't know if I do, but anyway, that was cheap. Super Troopers, a comedy that recently got a sequel. This was released in 2002. I would have been 10 years old then, and sort of at the height of my VHS renting days, and I think I've been aware of this since it came out, but I never saw it for some reason. It took me until now. I have to say that I didn't really like it that much. I couldn't really get into it. I don't think I laughed at all, honestly, which is kinda what you want from a comedy. I just didn't really like the sense of humor. I don't know, it didn't really click. So it was not bad, but I wasn't a huge fan. This one I've seen before. It's kind of a funny story, and just got the Blu-ray some time ago and rewatched it recently, and it's a really good one. So now we're done with the miscellaneous, I guess, and we're gonna get into some of the TV shows. Well, actually, I did talk about a couple shows. Anyway, we're gonna continue with the shows. Back, Series 1. Just bought this because David Mitchell and Robert Webb. I'm a massive fan of Peep Show. That's one of those shows that I can't wait until the day that I rewatch it, but I know I'm gonna enjoy it a lot, but I kinda wanna save it. So I have that to look forward to. But I love that show so much, Peep Show. Yeah, I mean, they've done a couple other shows together. This one, I got some time ago, and it's not great. It's all right. I don't know. It's okay. This was a big one. The Simpsons season 18. Again, I could get into this, but let's just say that when they discontinued the DVDs after season 17, they announced that they're not gonna release the seasons on DVD anymore. I was very disappointed, and I kind of wanted it not to be true, because as much as people criticize later Simpsons seasons, at this point, after 30 seasons, I don't know exactly when the later ones are. At this point, I think most of them are the later ones, according to a lot of people. But anyway, not despite all of that, I've always looked forward to each season. Like every fall, they were released over here or across the world, I guess. Usually, anyway. And I got them like every year on release day, basically. And it was like, and when I was just a teenager or younger than that, my dad would get them for me. Then after, eventually I would buy them myself. But it was always this big deal when they came out, and so I was sad when they discontinued them. And then a while ago they announced that they're gonna continue to release them, which is awesome, although they're quite behind now. I mean, season 18, they're on season 29 or 30 now, so they've got some catching up to do, although I doubt that we'll see them all on DVD one day, unless they release like a big set or something. But as long as they release season 19 as well, and we can close that gap in between 17 and 20, which they released for the anniversary years ago, I'm happy. But of course I'd like them to continue for as long as they can. Anyway, that took me a while to get through, by the way, because I would watch a couple episodes, then I would listen to the commentaries, so it ended up being 44 episodes, so I had Simpsons going on for like a couple of weeks, so that was fun. Then I picked up Mad About You, the complete series, which is in talks of a reboot now, which I'd like to see that, even though I wasn't a huge fan of this. It definitely had a lot of slow parts and a lot of lacking elements, I guess. I don't know, it's a 90s sitcom that was very popular back then, or at least in the US. And in Sweden there's been all these sitcoms that have gotten reruns. I grew up watching all kinds of American sitcoms, but this was never one of them. I never saw this on Swedish TV. So I watched it now for the first time ever. And it's a good show, mainly because of the big ensemble cast. I mean, these three here, and then a bunch more people who, whether they appear in dozens and dozens of episodes or just a couple, like the way they treat the whole cast, they all come back in a kind of natural way for the most part. And I really like the way they did that. Richard Kind is in this. I'm a big fan of his. Speaking of him and Paul Reiser, I just watched Red Oaks on Amazon Prime Video, which was a good show. And I love Richard Kind, and his character was really good in this. The way they treated his story a couple seasons in, I enjoyed. I think he left because he got another gig at another sitcom, whatever that was called. If it was Just Shoot Me or Spin City, I don't know. But I think he left this show for one of those. But he did come back for a few episodes. And anyway, so the characters and the cast I thought were very good, but there were just a lot of slow, boring episodes, to be honest. And I will say that for me there are stronger sitcom leads than these two. They're good, but I feel like if you're gonna compare this to like Friends or Seinfeld, it's just so far below that. And they're sort of, these three shows, they're sort of in the same universe, because there are all these kinds of connections, characters and stuff who appeared, crossovers basically. But then they ruined it too. Like on Seinfeld, there's one episode where George and his fiancée, whatever her name was, Susan, maybe not, they watch an episode of Mad About You, so that just ruins it, and then a couple more things that doesn't quite make sense or add up, but still. Anyway, Mad About You, I did enjoy it. and if they decide to reboot it with Helen Hunt and Paul Reiser and hopefully as many others as possible, I think with the more modern feel, I think I could enjoy it even more than this original show, actually, if done right. Obviously they talk about it because things like Roseanne and Will and Grace and stuff like that are getting reboots, and Full House earlier on and stuff like that. Anyway, 2 more shows here, small shows, Rainy Days and Michael and Michael Have Issues. So this is with and by David Wain and has all of these guest characters. I think this was like a web series, and it's really wacky stuff. I mean, David Wain as well as Michael Showalter and Michael Ian Black, they were part of the stand-up group The State, which I've not seen yet. And then they did Wet Hot American Summer, which has been getting a couple Netflix series as well. I like those quite a bit. And then the 3 of them did the show Stella together. So they've done a bunch of things together, but for these 2, they're not, I mean, they appear in like 1 or 2 episodes in this, but this is with the 2 of them and this is with him. So anyway, anyway, two fun shows. You know, this is a DVD-R. I don't think this is, but anyway, that's the TV. Now we really only have documentaries left, but there are some interesting ones. So let's get started with those. Home Movie, a film by Chris Smith, from the director of American Movie. Basically, this one takes a look at 5 extraordinary homes and the charming, bizarre people who inhabit them. Not great. A couple of these homes, or a couple of these, homes, they and the people, they weren't maybe holding up. There were 2 or 3 that I really enjoyed, or at least 2. These 2 at the top here, they were my favorite. This, honestly, I didn't care for too much. But it was fun. But I mean, American Movie is a lot better. But anyway, you don't have to compare it. This has been a holy grail for me, and I'm happy to own it. Or it's one of those ones that I've been hunting down, and now that I do own it, it is a holy grail in my collection because it's been so expensive. Cinemania, it has a real obsession here, real obsession. Yeah, it's about people who are obsessed with cinema, basically, which of course sounds right up my alley. And I love this documentary. This was made in like the late 90s, early 2000s. So it films them trying to cram as many showings in as many different theaters. Well, they kind of have to go to a bunch of different theaters to be able to see all these movies. But so it shows them going to all these different theaters to catch as many movies as they possibly can, basically. And then their knowledge about film is, I mean, I think I know a lot about film, but you watch this and you kind of realize that, yeah, this is a bit of a different ballpark or whatever. I mean, they know. They're basically walking encyclopedias of film. But yeah, I found this for like £5, and before that, I mean, I've kept an eye on this DVD for years, and it has never gone below like £30. So it's a Region A, a Region 1 DVD, but I think anyway. But I bought this from Amazon UK. But I'm really happy to have that, and I do recommend that if you haven't seen it and if you like cinema, which I'm guessing you do if you watch this. Now we have a couple documentaries that I have seen, but they're sealed because I haven't opened them. I've seen them before. 5 Broken Cameras. This was a very good documentary from I don't know when, 2011 maybe, 12. Yeah, this is a good one. And then This Is Not a Film. Also a very interesting documentary. and I bought a lot of documentaries rather recently from Ginza, and so I bought those two just to add to my collection, and I guess I'll watch them again eventually because they are very good. But it's been a while since I saw them. This one, the Cats of Mirikitani. It's basically about this man, this Japanese man or Japanese American. He's living on the streets of New York, and it's sort of the filmmaker films him as he, lives basically lives on the streets, or and he sells his artwork on the streets, I believe. And then in the middle of all this, when shortly after she has shortly after she has started filming him, 9/11 happens, and I guess maybe he lived nearby, or this obviously resulted in a lot of chaos, obviously, and I guess, I don't know exactly what happened in the city of New York, but I think they said something like he couldn't live on the streets anymore after that, for some reason. I'm not too sure why, but she takes him in to her apartment, and so now he lives with her, and so all of a sudden you have this very interesting special chemistry between the two of them living in the same place, and she's sort of trying to find a place for him to live, or a way for him to have an income and stuff like that, and their relationship develops in it's an interesting documentary. So this one I was a bit disappointed by, because I thought the filmmaker seemed a bit of a douche, to be honest. I don't know, he just seemed a bit pretentious or full of himself, and the way he approached the documentary just annoyed me. But it's a documentary called Into Eternity about the storage of nuclear waste in, I think this is in Finland. I don't know, this was made in, I heard about this in school years ago, that the plan for nuclear waste after it's been used, basically, before the radioactivity is not dangerous anymore, I guess. It takes about 100,000 years, and apparently they're planning on putting this in the ground in massive tunnels. Again, I think somewhere in Finland, Onkalo in Finland. 100,000 years. I remember my teacher she didn't talk about the film, but she talked about this idea, and she said, like, we have a Bible that's 2,000 years old. Can you imagine that they're gonna put this in, keep this intact for 100,000 years? How is that gonna be possible? But that's the plan, and this is a documentary about that. And as I was about to say before, I don't know exactly when it's supposed to be ready. But yeah, it also says here, how is it possible to warn 3,000 generations for the deadly waste that we leave behind us? Yeah, good luck with that. Anyway, so I just feel like it's such an interesting topic, but for me the documentary wasn't as interesting. But people might not agree with that, but that's what I thought. Now, Banda Bilili, really great documentary about street musicians in Congo Kinshasa. They're all paraplegic or handicapped in some way, and they play this crazy street music. And then the filmmakers, they obviously start filming them, and then eventually they want to give them a chance to record the music, and things go fairly well. I mean, I don't know if you can spoil documentaries like these, but they've released an album, and quite a few people seem to have listened to it. So it is a journey. It's a really cool journey, and the music is actually not bad. It's not what I would normally listen to, but I did listen to some of it on Spotify or YouTube, I don't remember. It might not be on Spotify, but on YouTube anyway, after I saw the film. And it's a really good one. Really good documentary. Okay, I'm getting sick of saying the word documentary. We know that these are documentaries. Now, Dena, released by Dog Woof. I got a couple of their DVDs. Yeah, it's about a woman, middle-aged woman, who is getting married, and both of them have their issues. I think he has Asperger's and something else, and I don't know what she has, but they are yeah, they have their problems, and it's a really I want to say adorable, not to diminish things, but it is an adorable film about them. The way it's filmed, a lot of the dialogue, it's very humorous, and it's a feel-good documentary too, that I really liked. Yeah, there's not too much more to say than that. The way they filmed it, though, I guess is one more thing I could say, is they've just let the camera sit. The camera never moves. So I wondered how they had filmed it. Like, was the film team there? Because the camera seems to be always on. Like when they're sitting watching TV, the camera must have gone on for hours. And when they're going to bed, sometimes the camera is there as they're you know, getting into bed and stuff. And I was kind of thinking, how would that work? I mean, are they or she is she operating the camera herself somehow? Have they showed her how to do that, or are they just standing behind the camera for hours, or are they doing something else in the meantime? And somebody did ask about that in the Q&A, which is included here. Yeah, the filmmaker has some really good answers to the questions, but still, so at times I was kind of wondering, like, is this actually a documentary? Because it almost seems like it could be a film. It almost kind of blends together in a way, which is not a bad thing. Alright, let's continue with a box set, which I don't believe I've included before. If I have, you'd have to forgive me, but if I have shown it before, I don't think I had talked about the third one anyway. But this is the Mondo Cane films, although I don't know if the third one is really part of those films. But there's such a thing called Mondo films, which is basically shockumentaries, just clips or documentaries with a bunch of clips of disturbing scenes, real for the most part. You might have heard of Faces of Death. Well, this one, I think the filmmakers are Italian. This is the first one that came out in 1960, Italy 1962. And the first ones are very much like that. They are just contain all kinds of clips of weird human behavior around the world. No theme other than that, really. The second one seems to be a bit more set up, a bit more comedic in tone. But they're definitely good, I want to say. But the third one is something completely different. It says The Death of Africa, and I don't know if this is really supposed to be a Mondo Cane film, but they call it that here, and really great artwork, by the way. But this is about when colonial powers left Africa in the 60s and left the place in a chaotic state, and this documents that, and it's very intense. Yeah, it's very intense. It's one of the... I'm not sure if I should say one of the best documentaries that I've seen, but it's possibly up there. It's really interesting. I could warn about, you know, some animal cruelty here, but there's also human slaughter to warn about. So, you know, maybe not for everybody, but if you want to see what happened, this is a really good account of that. And to prove, in a way, that what they filmed was the real, sounds silly, but the real deal. I mean, they were close to getting killed when they filmed it. I mean, there's a scene when they're getting sort of attacked, their car is being wrecked, and then they're being brought out by the car by some guerrilla group, perhaps, that maybe didn't like what they were doing, or they didn't know who they were. Probably understandably so, but they, yeah, they were seemed to have been close to getting murdered right there on the spot. So they really put their lives on risk filming this documentary. And the footage shows, I mean, it's yeah, I mean, there were so many conflicts that I guess we don't really know about that happen in Africa. Or I say we, but I didn't. I'll just say that. And it's crazy that you don't know about all this stuff, because yeah, it's hard to know how to approach that. But it's a really intense, but a really powerful documentary that I would recommend, even though it's a lot. Also, I could mention that Roger Ebert gave that documentary a really bad review, but apparently there's another cut called like Africa Blood and Guts or something, which cuts out like some of the plot, if there's any plot. I guess you could say that there is, but it cuts out stuff that's important to the story, and it just shows the gruesome parts like out of context, I guess. Which if you're gonna see it, then don't see that. Watch the longer cut, but just go to the Wikipedia page and you'll find out about that. Alright, so this went on for a bit longer than I thought, so I don't really have time to talk about the other stuff, but we only have Swedish stuff left, and that's not really maybe terribly interesting to most people, so I'll save that for later on. But that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed it, and again, this will be uploaded along with a video in which I talk about a bunch of Blu-rays. So if you're sick of DVDs here, like it's 2018, dude, what's up with all the DVDs? Then you can watch the other one if you haven't already, for a bunch of awesome editions from all kinds of places. Okay, I'm done promoting my own videos now. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna drink some more water. Cheers. And I'm gonna go to bed.